Cool.
Wow, I thought, what was this background about? Looked like some kind of cave. So how are you feeling? Bo said something about very hard exercises you went through.
Yes.
Yes.
Birgit, are you doing the how to take notes, or are you just here to?
I did the last how to take smart notes book club.
Okay.
And because Michael is doing it this time, and I know what exercises are coming up, and that a lot of private stuff might also come up, and you probably wouldn't like your spouse to look over your shoulder the whole time. I promised him not to be in the graph.
Okay.
So that
Fair.
he would have the same privacy I had when I did RBC3.
Mm-hmm. Now I really need to read your stuff, Michael. I want some juicy details in there tomorrow.
I think Bo knows more about our family life than any other one.
Yeah. I made it hard for the others. I wrote a lot.
You're leading the word count, right, Michael?
Fortunately, yes, I didn't.
Wow, impressive. Is that a competition? I didn't even know that people were counting this stuff.
The point is that usually if I have to write something, I go like this, oh God, what should I write? I don't know what to write and so on. And here it comes so easy that I'm a little bit surprised about myself that there are so many.
Surprised.
Well, that's amazing. I think it's a very good sign if things are flowing quickly and easy for you.
Yes.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Hey.
Good to see you.
And David, hello.
Hello, everyone. You all right?
Oh, yes. Hello, David.
I snuck in.
That's great.
It's an impressive bookshelf you have, Patrick.
I'm new. I haven't, thank you. I wasn't here last week, so I don't know what the form is, how long we read the book, and it'd be great to know how it all works.
Hi, Patrick. Well, it's meant to be a reading room, but sometimes we read the book.
I was surprised when I looked at the bookmark that you'd only literally managed to do, a couple of paragraphs, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I'm hoping we can pick up the pace a bit maybe tonight.
Yeah. Well, I see your names on the list of readers. So yeah, we just take turns reading. You read as long as you like. Can be just one bullet, or can be a whole page or a whole chapter, whatever you like.
Sure.
Hello, hi Anna.
Hi, Anna.
Hi.
The colors are back. Have you seen? The colors are back.
Sorry?
The colors are back in RBC4, Grading Sweetgrass.
The colors?
The colors, everything is back to normal.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't even check.
Yes. So everything is great.
Good. Oh, I'll check it out.
Your hats look so colorful.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Thank you. They're not mine. I mean, I'm renting this place. It's a lot.
Oh, very cool.
And they don't fit me, which sucks.
Well, thanks to all of you, I'm quite addicted to this Brain FM now.
Oh, Brain FM is awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, shall we? I suppose.
Let's do it.
Still people. Ooh, Simon's coming in. That's nice. So can you see it okay? How's the size of the
For me, it's great.
text?
Looks good.
Yeah, looks good. Yeah.
Okay, good guess. Hi, Simon. Welcome back.
Hello, so I'm late.
Hi, Simon.
Yeah.
Okay, so just feel free whenever you feel like it.
Okay, it looks like I'm up first here. Let's go. Good students also look beyond the obvious. They peek over the fences of their own disciplines, and once you have done that, you cannot go back to do what everyone else is doing, even if you now must deal with heterogeneous ideas that come without a manual on how they might fit together. After that, all that means is that a system is needed to keep track of the ever-increasing pool of information, which allows one to combine different ideas in an intelligent way with the aim of generating new ideas. Sometimes I feel I get too wrapped up just trying to pronounce the words and I kind of forget what I've read. Anybody want to jump in with a comment, or will I continue on? Okay. Poor students do not have any of these problems, as long as they stick within the boundaries of their discipline and read only as much as they are told to, or less. No serious external system is required, and writing can be done by sticking with the usual formulas of how to write a scientific paper. In fact, poor students often feel more successful until they are tested, because they don't experience much self-doubt. In psychology, this is known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, Kruger and Dunning, 1999. Poor students lack insight into their own limitations, as they would have to know about the vast amount of knowledge out there to be able to see how little they know in comparison. That means that those who are not very good at something tend to be overly confident, while those who have made an effort tend to underestimate their abilities. Poor students also have no trouble finding a question to write about. They neither lack opinions nor the confidence that they already thought them through. They also won't have trouble finding confirming evidence in the literature, as they usually lack both interest and skill to detect and think through disconfirming facts and arguments. That's very interesting. I feel somewhere in a previous life I read about the Dunning-Kruger effect. But it's a very interesting study. I'll pass the torch to Ellen if you like, Ellen.
Okay.
I have a question, so until we go further. I was thinking, how do you grade students? You know, it's kind of counterintuitive. Somehow, good students are not so good, according to Sonke. Poor students are not so poor, according to Sonke. And excellent students are not so excellent. So how do you grade them? If you are a professor or a lecturer, and you have a students, and it's a very relevant question for modern online formats of education. So what any ideas about that?
No, it's just, to me, part of the problem lies with just having to try and quantify some intelligence in some way. It just seems, I don't know, very artificial, or can't quite put my finger on it.
I battle very much with grading as well, because like you just said, I don't know how to quantify, and certain things that I haven't even considered may be important to somebody else, and might be rightly so important. I'm not entirely sure, and I really hate the grading system that, this striving for marks. I don't know. I find it very difficult. And as a teacher, I go against the grain because that's just part of our job. And so I don't know. I think grading is such a subjective thing. It's not objective at all. So I don't know the answer to your question.
Interesting.
Calls into question the whole education system that we know.
It's built for another era, right? I mean,
yeah,
absolutely.
Michael, do you grade your students?
Sorry, I didn't.
Yes and no. She asked if I grade my students. I think I'm lucky. I work at a school, British Council, where it's up to us. I don't have to give any tests if I don't want to.
Okay.
I'm a language teacher, right? So, but we do have to submit reports to the parents if they're under 18. So, but the reports are pretty basic. They're, developing, meeting expectations, or exceeding expectations.
Okay.
And those three are based on the student, not necessarily the level.
Interesting. So you're kind of trying to track progress instead of like reaching certain levels.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that. That's better.
yeah.
And Bart, do you grade on the child's effort, or do you grade against the criteria? Because I'm not academic, so I just give you my 2 pence on this. But I feel the schooling system never grades on the child's effort, right? So if you looked at growth mindset in comparison to grades, so someone with a growth mindset would out surpass anyone, right? With a fixed mindset, but good on the criteria. Well, I don't know. I also from the UK, it always feels like you're graded on the system, you're graded on the level, and not your effort against the level, which I always find kind of ridiculous, actually, because you're basically penalizing a child who is working their balls off, as opposed to someone who's super smart and gets the pat on the back for, oh, well done, you're so smart. But you're basically saying to him, well done, don't do any work because you're smart, don't do any work, I'll pat you on the back. So I've always I just kind of thrown it in there, but it just, I don't know how you would grade on effort, but it always frustrates me that you see so many kids who really try and never get a pat on the back.
I think, grading on effort is really good for especially for younger kids, because it teaches you really quickly, like, effort is what matters, because it's actually bad for smart kids. I was like one of those. I didn't do anything. I had good grades, and then I became a really bad student later because I wasn't used to working, like doing anything. But then I think grading on understanding would be one way. So for example, it can be done for everything, but for science, for sure, like I'm doing an undergrad now for fun, more or less. Like I don't have a job right now. So it's in computer science, but I have a lot of classes of like physics, maths, and stuff. And I'm watching the lectures and I think I'm understanding. And then when it comes to the problem sets, I'm like, what is this? Mm-hmm. So, which is great. Like, it's great because it's like, they're really testing your understanding. They're not just like, oh, memorize what we told you in the lecture. They're like, oh, okay, you think you understand? Okay, come and do this. So I think, at least for science, that works well for me. Like, it was life-changing. Like, wow.
I guess it depends on the subject as well, then, doesn't it? That makes a lot of sense for a subject like that, like science. Mm. But for language or maths, for example, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, you get to know your students, right? And you know what they're capable of, and you see if they're progressing. Yeah. So they could be the best student in the class, but they've progressed 0 the whole year. But you have a student who couldn't, put 2 sentences together, and at the end of the year is able to communicate and understand you. So, who gets the better mark? Mm.
I taught at the University of Applied Science a couple of years ago, and I graded my students based on individually based on what I saw they were coming from, how much they tried, how much they learned. It very, very subjective in the end. So some of the good the good students got worse grades than the bad students that really put a lot of effort and a lot of work into it. So, what can you do?
Chris, were you challenged by any of the students who, let's say, were disappointed with their result?
No.
Okay.
No. I taught at two separate faculties. One of the technical faculty and one of the management and law faculty. I taught some IT stuff, and I tried the management and law students were really weird. When we handed them assignments, there's this grading system where we got points, and there were when you did the normal level of exercises, and handed them in, you got like a B or something, and if you did some extra work, we gave them an A. And I said, "This is unfair. Everybody, when I need to do more to get an A." I said, "Yes. Where's the problem?" And they totally didn't get that. And the other thing they didn't like was exercises that had no clear solution. How do I do that? And I said, well, there are 10 different ways of doing that. You figure it out. No, you have to tell us exactly. I don't know. But I only have a couple of years of experience teaching, so I don't know if that's the new normal or not. Or if it depends.
Sorry, Michael, you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I teach at university, in particular the first year students, and I found out that nowadays they fall into two classes. There is the first class, I teach physics, which wants to get a good degree with good chances for jobs. So they do everything thrown against them, but they do it without a heart. They are often very smart and very good, but there's no fire. They don't want to know. And then there are the others who might not come as easily. They need to work hard, but they want to know things. And I tend to, as far as I can do that, to give better note and better marks to those. I can't do that in a written exam. There are lots of written exams where everything is judged the same way. It's just the points they get at the end for right solutions. But in the oral exams, which I much more like, you can try to find out if somebody really wants to know and succeeded in some way in this wanting. And then I try to give them a good score for that.
Yeah, and the other thing is I had students show up at oral exams that I've never seen during the semester. They got the really hard questions. And the other ones, the other ones, I knew what they did, and I gave them the questions that I knew they could answer.
Yeah.
So.
I think the school system, though, teaches the kids to be so reliant on the teacher and not to think for themselves. And that's why they're so frustrated with no clear-cut answers, because by the time they get to uni, they've learned for 12 years to rely on always having an answer for something. And it's very frustrating, I think, for them.
Parroting.
Reminds me of my high school experience where we just had some poor teachers and then students who just wanted to know in advance, like, what are you going to ask on the test? And then essentially he would, handwrite on the chalkboard what the answer to this question is. And then the job is basically for the student to go home and memorize it and then spit it back on the page. And the way you get the best mark is to get as close to that answer that he wrote on the board, word for word. Stupid. It doesn't test for understanding at all.
Yeah. And it's really we have to design tests, and you do multiple choice tests at uni these days, at least at the bachelor level, and trying to design a test that tests for understanding with the multiple choice, it's hell. It's crazy difficult.
I can imagine.
Yeah, with multiple choice.
Oh, well, I don't think we're going to fix the education system here tonight. Maybe we should keep going.
Maybe I just go on.
Okay.
Good students, on the other hand, constantly raise the bar for themselves as they focus on what they haven't learned and mastered yet. This is why high achievers who have had a taste of the vast amount of knowledge out there are likely to suffer from what psychologists call imposter syndrome, the feeling that you're not really up to the job, even though, of all people, they are. Clance and Imes, 1978, Brams et al., 1994. This book is for you, the good students, ambitious academics and curious nonfiction writers who understand that insight doesn't come easy and that writing is not only for proclaiming opinions, but the main tool to achieve insight worth sharing.
This
I have a quick question, just out of personal interest. Are any of you, or have any of you met people in this community who are interested in creative writing, not necessarily the nonfiction, but fiction or some blend of the two? Because that's one of the angles that I'm pursuing here with learning Rome and learning Zettelkasten.
Yes, in ABC4, in ABC3, a woman in my graph, she's a writer.
Okay.
And she uses Rome
Who
for writing.
just said I am? Was that you, Anna?
Yeah. I'm an aspiring writer.
Okay, same. Okay, that's good to know.
And I think you'll find Bo is, that's the whole reason he.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so true. And actually, that really was comforting to hear when I first kind of joined the group, that like, oh, there's other people like coming at this from, a different angle. That's not one of those three listed there by Sons.
I think Sonke does himself a disservice with the old the subtitle, for students, academics, and non-fiction book writers. I don't know why he qualified it like that. It's strange.
I agree.
He wrote it for his students, I think.
Sure.
That was his target audience.
Yeah, exactly.
But I bet you the second edition, the publisher will take that off.
But it's true that it seems harder to me to use a Zettelkasten for fiction writing. I haven't figured out how I'm going to do that yet.
No, me either. But part of my problem is I haven't been using it long enough, and I haven't inputted enough writing or ideas to really see any results.
Yeah, I think you could do a lot of world building in Rome, and probably researching what you're writing about. But really, world building would be Rome would be a great place for that.
Mm-hmm. My mind, definitely the research side, because I'm trying to build a story that's set in a real place, and so just to connect the themes of like what the landscape and the culture is there to the story that I want to write. I think all that can fit into Rome and help me, but again, I'm still working on it, obviously.
Do you use other tools like Scrivener or anything?
Yeah, so I was a Scrivener user, and I still have my main document in Scrivener. And so I've only written about 25,000 words, and I haven't actually migrated it into Rome, partly because I'm just not sure how that looks yet. So, but I think one of these days I'm just going to take the dive and do it, and then hopefully sort it out later. Trust the process.
The strength of Scrivener is the metadata, and that you could move stuff around so easily. And that's what Rome excels at.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Okay, thanks for humoring my question.
Any other questions, or should I jump into the next paragraph?
A little aside, I think that the title of the Sonke book is actually misleading. It's not about smart notes, like at all. But I also know a dirty secret of publishing industry, and the secret is that author is not choosing the title. Somebody does it for him. The publisher actually does it for him. And I'm quite interested whether it was a Sonke's title or the publisher's title.
The German title is actually quite different. It's called the slip note principle in German.
Oh, really?
Oh, interesting.
I'm assuming it's the translator who turned it into taking smart notes.
Yeah, yeah.
And Grigori, do you want to propose a new title? What do you think would be more fitting?
I have to think about it. I don't have it's about thinking in my view.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not-
but you make a good point, and you're actually quite well positioned because you told us, I think, in the last call that this essentially you did this type of work professionally, making notes. So I'd be very curious to see what your take would be.
All right, I will share it when I come up with something good.
Okay, great.
But you're right to raise it because there are a lot of very negative reviews, on Amazon and so on, because there is actually the word how, how to take smart notes. There's not one working example in the whole book. So, it's easy to see why some people think of it as a sort of a rambling philosophy rather than a practical guide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But you need
those people are just
RBC.
looking for. Yeah, those
That's why
people
you
are
need
most likely
RBC.
just looking for an easy solution, right? They just want to open the book and see how. I mean, okay, this is it, done, right?
That's it.
And if not, you get a 2-star review on Amazon. Yeah.
Chapter 1.1, good solutions are simple and unexpected. There's no need to build a complex system. There's no need to reorganize everything you already have. You can start working and developing ideas immediately by taking smart notes.
I think the last 2 weeks proved that.
Yeah. Just as a writer, I love the conciseness of those 2 sentences. It's just like it's really nicely written, very clear to me, and it's encouraging.
Jens Christian, do you want to take
Sure.
over?
Complexity is an issue, though. Even if you don't aim to develop a grand theory and just want to keep track of what you read, organize your notes and develop your thoughts, you will have to deal with an increasingly complex body of content, especially because it's not just about collecting thoughts, but about making connections and sparking new ideas. Most people try to reduce complexity by separating what they have into smaller stacks, piles, or separate folders. They sort their notes by topics and subtopics, which makes it look less complex, but quickly becomes very complicated. Plus, it reduces the likelihood of building and finding surprising connections between the notes themselves, which means a trade-off between its usability and usefulness.
I guess that's the whole top-down thing that we discussed last week.
Yeah.
And breaking things into folders, or yeah, it just doesn't work that way.
I mean, that's exactly what the problem I had with Evernote and all the other tools, that I had to think of, folders where to put the stuff instead of just, processing it and using it.
I remember back in, was that almost 30 years ago when I started to introduce email into a large manufacturing company. There were people printing out the emails and filing them in a folder. The card, Bundesordner, we call them.
Yeah.
And because some of the emails could go into different places, they made copies of the emails and filed them in different folders. And I then showed them the search function, and didn't work.
I've got about 10 years experience working for the Canadian government, and oh man, I've been in some really nightmarish rooms, just wall to wall file folders on rolling racks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen that in the trade office in Angola. So imagine that. That was bad. Yeah.
Okay, shall I continue?
Mhm.
Good. Thankfully, we don't have to choose between usability and usefulness. Quite the contrary. The best way to deal with complexity is to keep things as simple as possible and to follow a few basic principles. The simplicity of the structure allows complexity to build up where we want it on the content level. There is quite extensive empirical and logical research on this phenomenon. For an overview, confer this and that. Taking smart notes is as simple as it gets. Another item of good news regards the amount of time and effort you have to put into getting started. Even though you will change considerably the way you read, take notes, and write, there is almost no preparation time needed, except for understanding the principle and installing 1 or 2 free programs. It's not about redoing what you have done before, but about changing the way of working from now on. There is really no need to reorganize anything you already have. Just deal with things differently the moment you have to deal with them anyway. I have started taking notes differently now in the last couple of weeks in my personal graph, and I'm starting to do more of these fleeting notes things, but it's kind of like I'm waiting for the revelation to be unveiled, because there must be a better way, and I'm, give it to me. But I don't think that's the way it will be done. But it changes something. It has changed something for me.
Mm.
Stefan, do you want to continue?
Sure. So there is more good news. There is no need. Oh, no, that was not the one you read, right? Because I took some notes here. Oh yeah, it's that one. Okay, so there is some more good news. There is no need to reinvent the wheel. We only need to combine 2 well-known and proven ideas. The first idea lies at the heart of this book and is the technique of simple slipbox. I will explain the principle of this system in the next chapter and show how it can be implemented in everyday routines of students, academics, or nonfiction writers. Thankfully, there are digital versions for all major operating systems available, but I prefer you can also use pen and paper. In terms of productivity and ease, you will still easily surpass those who are taking not so smart notes. Man, my internet is again. Can you still hear me? Because I had issues today with my internet. All right. Okay. Was this the right paragraph? Because you're at the another lever, another item of.
Oh, it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the second idea is equally important. Even the best tool will not improve your productivity considerably if you don't change your daily routines the tool is embedded in. Just as the fastest car won't help you much if you don't have proper roads to drive it on. Like every change in behavior, a change in working habits means going through a phase where you're drawn back to your old ways. The new way of working might feel artificial at first and not necessarily like what you intuitively would do. That is normal, but as soon as you get used to taking smart notes, it will feel so much more natural that you will wonder how you were ever able to get anything done before. Routines require simple, repeatable tasks that can become automatic and fit together seamlessly. Yeah, some notes or some people here. Only when all the related work becomes part of an overarching and interlocked process, where all bottlenecks are removed, can significant change take place, which is why none of the typical 10 mind-blowing tools to improve your productivity tips you can find all over the internet will ever be of much help. Man, I've watched so many of those videos. Oh man.
Somebody
Yeah.
should do one of those videos for Rome.
I think there's enough of them.
I think it's a real cottage industry out there. Can I go back actually to the recent,
Sure.
the whole idea of slipbox? You know, I don't have a good concept of that, and to me it seems that Rome kind of erases the slipbox. But somebody please jump in and enlighten me.
What do you mean by erases?
Well, okay, let's say in Rome, what is a slipbox in Rome?
Yeah, I think there's not, I wouldn't say there's a slip box, because I guess for him the slip box was like where he put the notes, but then he had an index of those notes so that he could like quickly know like some entry points into his notes. And so Rome, like the slip box is just like Rome, because the notes are around, but we do, for what I know, I think we do create like an inbox, like an index, sorry. We create an index of those notes that are the entry points in one page. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
the Zettelkasten is a page, actually. So
Yeah.
you do have a
Yeah.
page, which is your index.
But the slip box is like the whole of Rome. It's like where you put your notes.
Yes
and the
and
notes are
no.
not anywhere.
Yes and no. I mean, Bo's method is really cool because, well, I won't say why. It's really great. But the index has the note right next to it. So you see the index and the note. But each note is a page as well. So if you click on that, you get all your structure underneath it, your fleeting notes, everything. So it's because of the way he organized it within Rome that it's very, very powerful.
And you connect the notes with each other.
Yeah.
And this is also part
Sounds
of
like
the
that's yet to come, though, in terms of our
Definitely.
day-to-day exercises,
Yes.
right?
But it is a separate page. You do have a Zettelkasten sort of page or permanent notes page.
Okay.
I think what Rome can do is it frees ourselves from the necessity in a physical Zettelkasten. You have only one way to sort in the notes as a long pile, one behind each other. There might be an ordering system, but that's it. And in Rome, you are not confined to this only one way to order things. So you have several directions in which things can be ordered. This is as I think, but I'm very new, and it's just my conjecture right now. This is one of the great things about Rome.
I think that's one of the things that really struck a nerve with me when I learned about Zettelkasten. After starting with Rome, is I've seen looked at a number of implementations, and some of them seemed like they were cargo culting. What Lumen did is, you have to write these weird index paths 1A, B, 5, C, otherwise you can't index your cards correct, which is, he did that because he had a physical limitation, and we don't have that anymore. And I saw Bo's video with Robert Hayesfield, and I didn't quite get it, but it seemed like, there is something there. He has transcended the just the one-to-one. Here's a slip box, and let's see how we can digitize that, and made something more out of it.
But does anyone here worry that actually the index card, in itself could be seen as like a beautiful constraint? And that, for me, is one of the worries of Rome, is that it's just so infinite, and I worry, these, whatever they call them, fleets, the tiny component parts that make up a fleeting note, and so on and so on and so on. And when I read this book, I think Lumen threw away his fleeting notes, but in Rome, they live forever, right? I mean, you're not going to delete them.
But you have started with the summaries, right? You put on top of the fleeting note.
Sorry, say again.
You have started to do summaries on top.
Yes, yeah,
of the fleeting notes.
But we'll never throw away all those, like.
Yeah, but imagine in 6 months you read the summary and you think, oh my God, what was I thinking about? when I wrote this funny note, I have no idea at all. Then you open up the fleeting notes and suddenly it comes back. Oh yes, that's it. I was thinking about this and this. Oh, okay, now I get what this sentence is supposed to mean.
Yeah, for me, it reminds me of my wife, who will never delete any of a sequence of photos that she's taken, because there might just be one in 5 years' time that really reminds her of something.
Yes, I can relate to that.
We never look at the photos anymore because there are just too many of them, and they aren't, I think editing is so important in life. But anyway, that's the distraction.
Well, I would say you don't write permanent notes for every fleeting note that you write. I abandon 3/4 of the notes I'm writing. Doesn't mean I necessarily throw them away, but they don't end up in my Zettelkasten, right?
Mm.
But if something does end up there, I remember what I wrote, right?
Mm.
I remember why I wrote it, and it's worth keeping it. I think it's worth keeping. You won't forget. And the Zettelkasten is a conversation partner, right? You're constantly talking with it, and it's talking back at you.
I think speaking from my personal experience using it, I'm finding that when I'm surfing the Zettelkasten going from the top down, a lot of what's in the bomb for those fleeting notes doesn't get used, but there is some value in having, especially in the context of Rome, something to search on. So I might have remembered writing something, maybe using a bit of a ship metaphor or something like that, and going, oh, I put something about ironing, and I'll search ironing. I've never used ironing, it's just a bad example. I'll search ironing, and then that will bring me to a bunch of other thoughts that I had. So there's almost like a bottom-up search effect to having this kind of iceberg of thoughts that I don't know if Lumen had access to this tool and this technology, would he have thrown them away, or was it a necessity of just space? I don't know. But there's definitely value to sort of having some of those journaling fleeting thoughts sort of laying around to revisit later.
I like this iceberg metaphor.
Yeah, that's great.
I remember about 10 years ago, there was a similar discussions in Getting Things Done community. Getting Things Done is a system created by David Allen, and it essentially is a pen and paper system. But about 10 years ago, there was an onslaught of different digital templates, basically with the same function. And like an Outlook template and whatnot, a lot of different templates. So you can do it in your computer. And a lot of people asked David how to proceed and how to learn GTD, what is the best way to learn GTD. And he always pointed out that if you really want to learn it, do it with pen and paper. But a little aside, he also made a rather beautiful business selling wallet-sized notebooks and small pens. So probably he was biased. I don't know. I'm not sure about it.
There's some people who have implemented GTD on Rome, I think, some courses. Yeah.
There you can buy courses on that.
Yeah.
Michael, what do you want to say?
Yeah, my personal experience is that for me, it's much harder to write anything with paper and pen, because I can't edit it in the moment it is written, it is done. And if I want to change it or reformulate it, I have to write it in new, and then laziness takes over. While at the computer, I can develop my writing at the moment I am doing it, constantly editing and going on, until I leave one thought and start with the next. So for me, paper and pen, I don't believe that would work with me.
Yeah, same for me, because I'm also faster. I mean, I don't write a lot because I'm a software engineer. So I have a bad handwriting like a 5-year or 6-year-old, and I'm much faster. I'm much faster. And I mean, I even stopped writing notes on my phone because I'm so slow. I mean, I'm fast. I use what is it called, Swift key, to write faster. But before investing time in, like, investing 5 minutes writing on the phone, I pick up my laptop and just write what I thought down, because I feel much more productive then.
That's funny that you mentioned that, because later in the book, I'm not gonna spoil it, it's not that important, but like he talks about why it's better for learning to write with by hand. I prefer to write on the computer because it's faster and like I don't lose it. But he explains that it's actually better for learning because you're slower. So like it forces you to like really pause and pick because you can't just write everything. Just have to like pick and choose and really understand it. But what he says is just like, okay, if you choose to write in a computer, make sure that you like really you're pausing to understand what you're writing. You're just not like just like writing everything. But I think it's depending on what you're writing also.
Yeah. And you can copy out a lot by hand, I tell you. And my husband has seen me copying by hand about the half of a book, because I was always afraid of losing the context of a quote. And then I thought maybe I should copy a little bit more of the context, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. And in the end, I copied the book by hand with a fountain pen on paper in the 1990s.
But I'm sure you remembered a lot.
No, that's what I wanted to say. I don't remember anything. I got my degree, okay, I can read my master's thesis, okay, but what I copied by hand, I just forgot about it. Yeah, it didn't help to remember anything.
Has to be in your own words though.
That's a cool story. let me just quickly write one note. Oh, that's also important. Oh, that's yeah. I mean, it's the same with markers, right? I used to, highlight almost everything because, that's important. Right. Oh yeah, that's important. And then out of a sudden, the entire page was yellow.
Yeah, same effect.
You have a sophisticated marking system with 5 colors.
Yeah. I mean, I did that too at one point. Yeah. So red was for very important. Green was for, just
kind of important.
Kind of important, and blue for facts or numbers. But then it was just a rainbow page. Yeah.
And it's one of the hardest things with Zettelkasten. I feel like we all want to do that. We all want to we're reading something. We want to memorize and remember everything. We don't just want to one thing. But Zettelkasten forces us to be like, no, this is the bit that matters to us. Everything else, I'm sorry, no. And it's so hard. It's like, no, but I want to remember every single thing. It's tough.
But do you think it comes down just to this, this summary, right? Because, we write much more, but by writing this summary sentence at the top level where the fleeting note tag is, we force ourselves to, put it in this easy to consume piece of information, right?
But you can't do that for everything that he said in the book. Otherwise,
yeah, sure.
But the permanent note isn't any of that.
Yes.
Okay, then I enjoy the ride until we come to permanent notes.
If you want that, if you want that, that's your literature notes, and that's your fleeting notes, all your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
The permanent note it's the conversation.
Yes. And when you have done one permanent note, you really think again whether you want to do a new permanent note on your next highlight or not. Because it takes time and energy.
I'm curious, how many of you who were in the previous RBC 3 started a new graph because you thought, okay, better start from scratch now? He said you don't have to, but I'm curious. Let's start a new graph from scratch because I learned so much and I want to, start from zero again. Not a blank page, but
I don't
Or
think
did you
have
just
to do
continue?
that, though.
No, I don't think you have to, but I'm curious if you thought about it or if you just, moved on and.
I thought about it, but I ended up not doing it. Like my own graph is a mess of discarded systems. What's one more, but this one's lasted longer than they usually do, to be fair. And given there's so much around linking stuff that's kind of there without necessarily. It's a commitment, but it's a commitment to a structure. Like I think Bart said earlier, it's literally just a page at the end of the day. Your Zettelkasten. So yeah, there's very little risk in sort of taking it up and see how it goes.
All right. I mean, you said it like I'm thinking, right? Our brain is also full of old structures, old ways of, how we proceed notes and thoughts. And yeah, that's how I see it too. I won't start from scratch as well. I was just curious if.
Just start your new page, your new Zettelkasten page. So this is I discarded a lot of double brackets, I think, and tags. I just don't use them any longer. I use a few for the really important stuff, and the rest is in my Zettelkasten.
It's interesting you say that. I'm using less and less of that as well.
Yeah. Because I'm living in 2 languages anyway. A lot of my graph is in English, just because I'm part of several English shared graphs. When I write for myself, it's in German. And this whole double bracket thing doesn't work as well with 2 languages anyway. So, and I think both system is so much better than any double bracket can be. Yeah, really.
I mean, Jens, we were also talking about German English graph mix, right?
Yeah, no good solution to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think David Vargas has an
there's an alias plugin, right?
An alias plugin, yes. And of course, when you do a search, you can always think of other words. It's not so hard to come up with them in the moment. When you look for, I don't know, dog, you look for Hund and Schäferhund or whatever.
It's something I was thinking about today, actually. I saw a thread on learning a foreign language in Rome, and like the language I'm constantly going back to is German. But now I'm in a position where if I wanted to do that, I have at least one permanent note, which is a German word, which comes with its own meaning. But what if then I wanted to have something around my learning of that German word and the grammatical implications of that? Like a direct alias wouldn't necessarily work one-to-one, but yeah.
Then you can jump to a Zoom call with Birgit and Michael for conversation practice.
I'll just have two graphs.
You would turn around and you wouldn't be the native speaker any longer. Yeah, no, just for fun.
Anyway, sorry.
Cool. Should we go on and read?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Patrick, do you wanna or?
I don't mind. You do another paragraph.
Yeah, sure. I can start. So where was I? Oh yeah, the importance, right? Yeah, okay. So the importance of an overarching workflow is great insight of David Allen's Getting Things Done. There are a few serious knowledge workers left who haven't heard of GDT, and that is for a good reason. It works. The principle of GDT is to collect everything that needs to be taken care of in one place and process it in a standardized way. This doesn't necessarily mean that we actually do everything we once intended to do, but it forces us to make clear choices and regularly check if our tasks still fit into the bigger picture. Only if we know that everything is taken care of, from the important to the trivial, can we let go and focus on what is right in front of us. Only if nothing else is lingering in our working memory and taking up valuable mental resources can we experience what Allen calls a mind like water, the state where we can focus on the work right in front of us without getting distracted by competing thoughts. The principle is simple but holistic. It is not a quick fix or fancy tool. It doesn't do the work for you, but it does prove a structure for our everyday work that deals with the fact that most distractions do not come so much from our environment, but our own minds. I mean, I also, when I first read the book from David Allen, I literally started writing down everything, and I still use OmniFocus as my task management tool. And as it says here in this paragraph, as soon as I think of something, I mean, especially now with Rome, I write down everything. So I want to have it out of my head, like he's saying there, and I mean, also at work. So as soon as I'm talking with a client and he needs mentioned something, some idea, whatever he might do in the future or thinks about whatever, I take notes already because I want to have it out of my head and somewhere where I know I can look it up later. So yeah.
Yeah, I relate to that. Anyone uses Roam for project management? Or not?
No, not yet. I would love to see if it works, but no.
Yeah. I use it, yeah. So
I use it for my day-to-day work, which is just managing or juggling 100 different smaller and larger projects. But I haven't found the tool to do project management yet. I think, did I talk about that last time, about breaking projects down into smaller and smaller tasks into they become insignificant, and I don't care about doing them because I don't need a task for putting X into Y. So it's the wrong level of granularity. I haven't found anything that works for me yet, for reals.
I mean, the thing is,
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that I use Roam, but the only problem with Roam is if you need to collaborate with others, but it works for me.
I mean, what I haven't seen yet, and I'm not sure if it would work for me, is managing or projects in Roam. Roam is for me like, generating ideas, connecting dots, but I'm not sure if I can use it for myself to manage things. Yeah. I like that everything is linked and can be linked, and the Zettelkasten thing, but I'm not sure if I would trade it with other management tools. Yeah.
I think it would struggle with recurring events and
yeah, for instance. Yeah.
Shall I pick it up?
For writing related projects. So for instance, I wrote an essay for uni with that, and it worked really well. But there I was mostly managing like, where am I stuck in my paper? What kind of research do I still need? So for that, I thought it was really good. Much better than a regular task manager.
I use it to keep track of meetings with all my reports and my boss and so on. I have a continuous page for each person meeting and write what we talked about. I'm now switching that to the doing everything in the day page, but
yeah, how's that
really helps me to get a feel of what we have talked about and what is important and so on.
Okay. Shall I go on?
Sure.
Unfortunately, David Allen's technique cannot simply be transferred to the task of insightful writing. The first reason is that GTD relies on clearly defined objectives, whereas insight cannot be predetermined by definition. We usually start with rather vague ideas that are bound to change until they become clearer in the course of our research. Writing that aims at insight must therefore be organized in a much more open manner. The other reason is that GTD requires projects to be broken down into smaller, concrete next steps. Of course, insightful writing or academic work is also done one step at a time, but these are most often too small to be worth writing down, i.e. looking up a footnote, reading a chapter or writing a paragraph, or too grand to be finished in one go. It is also difficult to anticipate which step has to be taken after the next one. You might notice a footnote which you check quickly on. You try to understand a paragraph and need to look up something for clarification. You make a note, you go back to reading, and then jump up to write down a sentence that formed itself in your mind. Writing is not a linear process. We constantly have to jump back and forth between different tasks. It wouldn't make any sense to micromanage ourselves on that level. Zooming out to the bigger picture does not really help either, because then we have next steps like writing a page. That does not really help in navigating the things you have to do to write a page. Often a whole bunch of other things that can take an hour or a month. One has to navigate mostly by sight. And these are probably the reasons why GTD never really caught on in academia, although it's very successful in business and has a good reputation amongst the self-employed. And we've caught up with the Asia Pacific, so that's good. Yeah, I'm a big Dave Allen fan, but I'm rubbish at doing my weekly reviews, so I don't know. I still think he's right though. If you can offload everything into that kind of structure, it does make your mind sit a little easier.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll hand over to you, Anna.
Okay. What we can take from Alan as an important insight is that the secret to a successful organization lies in the holistic perspective. Everything needs to be taken care of. Otherwise, the neglected bits will nag us until the important tasks become urgent. Even the best tools won't make much of a difference if they are used in isolation. Only if they are embedded in a well-conceived working process can the tools play out their strengths. There is no point in having great tools if they don't fit together. When it comes to writing, everything from research to proofreading is closely connected. All the little steps must be linked in a way that will enable you to go seamlessly from one task to another, but still be kept separate enough to enable us to flexibly do what needs to be done in any given situation. And this is the other insight of David Allen. Only if you can trust your system, only if you really know that everything will be taken care of, will your brain go and focus on the task at hand. That is why we need a note-taking system that is as comprehensive as GTD, but one that is suitable for the open-ended process of writing, learning, and thinking. Enter the slipbox.
Yeah, I think that with the trust in the system, that's really important. Because since it takes up effort to put things into it, if you can't trust it, you don't do the effort, or you will stop doing it. And I think that's a fear. Yeah. At least, I mean, I never tried other systems because beforehand I already thought this won't work. So I never even tried to whether the system might work. This is the first time that I actually do that, that I risk it.
There's also something to lack of feedback as well, right? Like I link it to things like if I'm trying to lose weight, I don't eat something today, eat a sweet or something, then I feel immediately that I'm missing out on a sweet, but I don't feel the value of missing out on that sweet until down the line, until that process is kind of completed. So there's, I don't know, there's a delayed gratification thing there as well in terms of trusting any process. Yeah, it relies on a bit of faith.
Yeah.
In my view, it is not really trust in the system or trust in the process. It's basically trust in yourself, following the system or following the process. It's a trust in that you will do the next step, whatever this next step is. Because the process will not do the work for you, and the system will not do the work for you. Only you can do it. And if you will not, or if you are not as systematic as you want to think about yourself, then the system will crash, basically.
Should I continue?
Perfect.
Yeah, I'll read one more. Chapter 1.2, The Slip Box. It is the 1960s, somewhere in Germany. Among the staff of a German administration office is the son of a brewer. His name is Niklas Luhmann. He of having to work for multiple clients. Fully aware he's also not suited for a career in administration as it involves a lot of socializing, he excuses himself every day after his 9-to-5 shifts and goes home to do what he liked most, reading and following his diverse interests in philosophy, organizational theory, and sociology. Whenever he encountered something remarkable or had a thought about what he read, he made a note. Now, many people read in the evening and follow their interests, and some even take notes. But for very few, is it the path to something as extraordinary as Luhmann's career. After collecting notes for a while in the way most people do, commenting in the margins of a text or collecting handwritten notes by topic, Luhmann realized his note-taking was not leading anywhere. So he turned note-taking on its head. Instead of adding notes to existing categories or their respective texts, he wrote them all on small pieces of paper, put a number in the corner, and collected them in one place, the slip box. That's so crazy that someone came up with that. Like, how to do this? Like, seems impossible. You want to continue? Who's next?
And on the other hand, it's so fascinating that it took so long that someone came up with something like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
it looks very
the
simple.
technology
Is
was-
it?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Just that the technology, Stefan, like you said, is paper and pen. That's been around for a long time.
yeah, that I mean, 1960s, right? I mean, it's crazy.
And why do you?
I think I've read somewhere that the index card started with Linnaeus when he was doing his taxonomy system. He had the first idea about some kind of index card.
And I don't know if you've ever been in an old library. They have very similar, their library catalogs are actually very similar to what Luhmann built. They also have this
right.
index reference, super interlinked reference, which shows abstracts of the book. So they're actually very similar to what he came up with.
Yeah. I wonder if Luhmann read somebody like Vannevar Bush with the Memex, with the idea of this interconnected desk that shows you references and so on, and try to implement something like that in the technology he had at hand. The ideas from Vannevar Bush were in the mid 40s, after the war, 45, 46. So Luhmann could have been inspired by that, because if you read Bush's paper on the Memex, some of the things in are really like, oh, this is Luhmann must have read this. This is
yeah, probably he took some great approaches and just connected it together. Yeah.
Wikipedia says, it goes as far back as 1516.
The index card thing, or
yeah, well, including notably in the specialized form of a library catalog, it was pioneered by Conrad Gessner, 1516.
Wow.
I think Luhmann's was probably the first very successful, really.
Yeah, that's that's probably it. Yeah, that his successes stood out so much that people finally realized saw it.
Okay.
I mean, it's impressive what he did, right?
Yeah.
Looking at the numbers and his results, it's crazy.
He wrote like 50 books or something crazy like that. No?
Yeah, and they even published some after his death, man.
That's
so crazy. Can you send a link, Bart, where you got this?
Oh, it's just Wikipedia, but yeah, absolutely.
Ah, thanks.
waiting for, I'll paste a link to the paper from Vannevar Bush whenever my Rome research graph loads.
Oh yes.
Don't close the tab. Number one rule.
Yeah, I took out the damn it.
It's on the Zettelkasten side. Direct. Okay, thank you.
I was wondering.
Oh yeah, there's a history.
Go ahead. I was wondering if, well, I would love to be able to use this for my computer science degree, but I don't know if it can be done. If this is more for like humanities topic, a Zettelkasten. I wonder if anyone has done that or knows anyone who's used that for more like science, maths.
What about Peter Rosso?
What about him?
Yeah, what he is doing his PhD,
Mhm.
but I don't know what's his field of research. Isn't it something with computer science?
I don't know. I'll check because it just seems like seems kind of that it's not gonna work for me. It seems more for like a humanities kind of stuff.
Yes.
But I'd be curious because if it does, like I'm gonna use it to study this.
I think, I mean, I did computer science in uni, and I think it depends. The more you progress in your degree, it will be more useful. In the beginning, you do mostly problem sets, and so you just do the math exercises and the theoretical computer science exercise and the programming exercise. For that, it's probably less useful. But the more you progress in the studies, you will be doing more independent research, and then it becomes more useful because then you handle more literature and you write essays and things like that. Then it becomes more useful.
Cool. Okay. So not like to write like theories or anything like that. Like, well, that would be more like I'm thinking about physics now because that's the class I'm taking. I mean, doesn't matter.
Ask Peter Rosso. He's on the RBC program.
I don't know the whole conversation.
Yeah.
I'm a PhD here, but I'm not studying computer science, but technique communication, kind of humanity. But yeah, I'm doing research, by using the role. And taking notes from papers, articles, and form some topics for my later on my use about my research topics. And one thing you mentioned about computer science, one thing that's wonderful, you can write the formulas because it supports Markdown. I think you can LaTeX. You can write down. And I think I'm not sure what you're gonna do with computer science, but I want to compare that. If you think about those folders in your Windows system or Apple, they are like kind of like the old how to say shuffles or those boxes. But if you think raw, it's like kind of change the storage system of the whole computer science. You do not store your articles into folders, but you connect those folders. Actually, the Apple system kind of like that, but you need to open one folder and it jumps to another column of folders, subfolders, and then jump on to another one, right? This is Apple system. But for the Windows, you click one folder into another folder. It's not visualized. Apple improves a little bit, but Zettelkasten, if you think it like this way, you kind of link all your folders, or your files maybe, and it's kind of like your own search engine. You build your own search engine of your knowledge based on all your knowledge, and there is a search bar you can search. There is permanent notes you can look. I want to mention, I just began to rebuild my workflow with those notes. I've been working with Rome for half a year, but I just keep notes. I trust the process, yeah, but without any fruitful outcomes yet. But yeah, I kind of refine the process and take some permanent notes and connect those permanent notes. So when I read a new paper, I kind of relate these ideas or the ideas to my old permanent notes. I think it's useful because when I look at my research topic, under that, I can see all those papers, all those permanent notes.
Oh.
So when you write a paper, you don't have to look for all those references. It's just underneath. That's what I thought. I kind of believe that. I don't know. How about your idea?
I mean, that's what I'm looking for. I'll play around with it and see, but I can't wait to get to that point where everything is there and connected.
You could give things a title, use the latex, give it a hashtag, connect it all up. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. But yeah, you mentioned about, I think it's more related to the technique or not scientific writings. I mean, not for the creative writings. I'm not sure. Yeah, just now you mentioned that for the creative writings, I don't know how to do that because my target, my endpoint is very clear. I will write papers, so I need to read some references, articles. So then I can believe those process. If it needs to nowhere, yeah, at certain point I may lose my confidence. Yeah, that's why I think both said trust the process. If you do not have any ends, any goals, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Shall we continue? Maybe I will begin to read.
Okay.
Okay, it's my turn. Thank you, Anna. And it led him to enter academia. One day he put some of those thoughts together into a manuscript and handed it over to Hammack Schinsky. Sorry, I don't know this word. One of the most influential sociologists in Germany. Schinsky took it home, read what those academic outsiders have written, and counted Newman. He suggested that he should become a professor of sociology in the newly founded University of Bielefeld. As attractive and prestigious as the position was, Newman wasn't a sociologist. He didn't have the formal qualifications required even to become an assistant for a sociology professor in Germany. He hadn't written a habilitation, the highest academic qualification in many European countries, which is based on the second book after the doctoral thesis. He had never held a doctor or even obtained a sociology degree. Most people would take the offer as a huge compliment, but point out the possibility of it and move on. Sorry, some words I don't know.
That's okay.
Don't worry, don't worry.
We are all sitting in the same boat.
Yeah, English. Yeah, sorry. And do you have anything you want to share? Then I will. Okay, go ahead.
Only that this is quite an incredible story, because I imagine today somebody would suggest someone becoming a professor without the formal qualifications. I think it's almost unthinkable.
It reminds me of another person, Einstein. You know, Einstein also worked at the bureau in Switzerland and sent a paper to a professor. I forgot his name, and then this professor told Einstein to be a professor. Yeah.
Yeah, but he had studied physics and mathematics, I think.
Yeah, he had the
Yeah,
he had formal.
Formal qualification.
Yeah, but for Luhmann, no qualification at all.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I live in the town just next door to Bielefeld. I live in Paderborn.
Wow.
And fun fact, Bielefeld in Germany doesn't even exist.
Exactly.
Well, it's a joke in Germany that it's a conspiracy theory that Bielefeld doesn't exist.
So that's why the story is so unbelievable, because it's Bielefeld.
Bielefeld. Bielefeld.
And if you say Bielefeld exists, you're part of the conspiracy.
Bielefeld.
So funny.
Okay. I will continue. No, Luhmann. Okay, go ahead.
No, I just said okay.
Okay. Bielefeld. Okay. Luhmann, he turned to his sleep box, and with its help, he put together a doctorate thesis and the habilitation thesis in less than a year while taking classes in sociology. Shortly after, in 1968, he was chosen to become professor of sociology at the University of Bielefeld, a position he would hold for the rest of his life. So,
his wife must have hated him.
Within a year.
I mean,
yeah.
He couldn't have been at home, or could he? I don't know. Oh, this would have meant so many fights with Michael. Yes. Wouldn't be possible. Okay, but I digress.
Okay. In Germany, a professor traditionally starts with a public lecture presenting his or her projects, and Luhmann too was asked what was his main research project will be. His answer would become famous. He laconically stated, "My project theory of society, duration 30 years, costs 0. Luhmann, 1997, 11. In sociology, a theory of society is the mother of all projects."
We forgot about his salary. So it was not really cost, it wasn't cost 0 because he had a salary.
Okay.
Yeah. He didn't even have assistants for most of his career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his time, of course, his time invested in this one. Okay. I will continue this, or I will give to a next one, maybe.
I think that's me.
Michael, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
When he finished the final chapter almost exactly 29.5 years later, as a 2-volume book with the title The Society of Society in 1997, he stood up the scientific community. It was a radical new theory that not only changed sociology, but stirred heated discussions in philosophy, education, political theory, and psychology as well. Not everyone was able to follow the discussions, though. What he did was unusually sophisticated, very different, and highly complex. The chapters were published individually each book discussing one social system. He wrote on law, politics, economy, communication, art, education, epistemology, and even love.
I have a question. Have anybody here in this group ever opened this book of Luhmann called The Society of Society? Because I tried, and I was hoping to find, you know, the same clear style that we can see in Sonke's book. And basically, I could not read it. It's too complicated.
I tried as well,
not
and
similar.
I struggled with it. It may be a bit easier in German to read, but it's still super difficult.
And in this book written by Sonke, I kind of can see the Zettelkasten structure underlying the book. And in case of Luhmann, I could not see it. It just, you know, regular scientific volume of work, you know, like 1,000 pages of mind-blowing overload.
Yeah, I had a similar question. Like, was he respected as a, like, I didn't know anything about him before, so.
Yes, he
was
very respected. At least in German sociology, he is one of the major figures.
Okay.
Okay, shall I continue?
Yeah.
In 30 years, he published 58 books and hundreds of articles, translations not included. Many became classics in their respective fields. Even after his death, about half a dozen more books on diverse subjects like religion, education, or politics were published in his name, based on almost finished manuscripts lying around in his office. There are more than a few colleagues I know who would give a lot to be as productive in their whole lifetime as Luhmann was after his death. Yeah,
Makes me feel like a total failure.
Yeah, I mean,
imposter syndrome kicks in, right?
Yeah.
But I mean that kind of productivity. I mean, 58 books, not just research articles or so, books.
It's insane. It's insane.
Who has written a book here? I have. It's hell.
I am in the process of writing one, but I have not finished it.
Welcome to hell.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. And I think part of me, this interest in Rome is I have hope that it will help me get kind of unstuck and be more productive. But you know, maybe I'll be on to the next knowledge management system next month when I get tired of this one.
I try to see it that way. I mean, probably Luhmann was exceptionally gifted, and the Zettelkasten he invented in that way, it was just absolutely fitting for his mind. But if only 1% of that functions with me, then I would make great progress, I believe. So if I approach it from this 1% perspective, then we still have a lot to win, I think.
Yeah, I also think you have to be kind to yourself, if anything. We don't have, Luhmann probably was an asshole, for all we know, right?
You're a terrible person.
We just don't know.
Like
So be kind. I mean, or accept what you are, and that's something I'm learning here in these writing exercises. Something that.
And I think we can't forget that he had much fewer distractions than we have in this day and age.
Talking about distractions.
Sorry, my phone's ringing.
Exhibit
could you
1.
say that again? Somebody's phone.
That's distraction.
But yeah, it's true. Like I feel like I'm already trying hard enough to do all the RBC exercises and like feeding myself, and that's it. That's my day. Oh, but hopefully when we get it rolling.
Yeah, actually, I'd be kind of curious to know how many hours people are punching at this today, because it does feel like, you know, it's undefined. You know, you can write so many fleeting notes. But anyway, I've been limiting myself, but I still sometimes find that like, oh, there goes like the whole morning, and I have way too many other things that are waiting to be done.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Wait till the coaching sessions start happening.
Is he still doing the coaching sessions he talked about in the Rome FM episode? The one-on-one? Are you talking about the one-on?
Well, I mean, I don't know if he'll do that this time. I imagine he will. But for, you know, for us, he was doing one-on-ones and recording them.
Yeah.
And then, so every morning you'd wake up and have a 2-hour video waiting for you.
Yeah.
And they were good. They were
Right.
really good. Like you didn't want to miss them, you know, but
Yeah. Takes a lot of time.
yeah, I got pretty angry at one point.
Another item on my read later or watch later list. Yes.
I think I skipped one, but only one.
Wow.
And then I watched all the reading sessions because, yeah, I was too shy to come to the European reading room at the time. So I watched the American reading room.
Was there even a European reading room? I mean,
No,
Didn't
it was
you
just
be
ours
part?
that we had at the very end.
right at the
Ah,
end.
okay.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, I'm just reading the Wikipedia article from Luhmann, and they describe his biography a bit different than this text. It's a little bit less of a miracle there.
Yeah.
Okay. That's helpful.
Fake news.
Okay, yeah, which one is fake news now? Wikipedia or the book? I mean, talking about the distractions, I'm really curious here. So, the one of you who's using iOS, you can take a look how many notifications you get each day, which is sometimes a very interesting number. You can also see how many times you pick up the phone, and on a daily average, I get 125 to 150 notifications on my phone per day. I mean, talking about distractions, why?
How do you see that?
You
Or
need
do
to
I
go
want to know? Wait, I'm deciding if I actually want to know this information.
You see it in so when you look up screen time in the settings, if you have enabled this feature, you can open screen time, and then you see a graph of the usage time per day, and then it says see all activities. And when you scroll on that page, you see the daily average use, the most used apps, and the time. I mean, I said I'm a Twitter addicted, so last week I spent almost 9 hours on Twitter. And you see also the pickups, so how many times you picked up the phone per day. And
Oh, now I know why I disabled this. I will never know. I will never know.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, and I see that some of you are checking it right now. So I'm curious. I'm curious if I'm the only freak here with too high numbers.
How many pickups?
I have on average 102 per day.
And is it sharing the? Is it just for the iPhone, or does it collect the iPad data as well?
You can enable it on all devices, I think, and
Yes,
Apple
and then
syncs
you
it,
get
yeah.
the whole average. Okay. Now I never.
I think so, yeah.
I have
So tell me,
160
pickups or notifications?
pickups.
Okay.
Wait, I don't know where you see the average of pickups.
And now I'm wondering why my thesis just won't write itself.
At the top, whoops, at the top you can switch between week and day, Anna. And when you go to week, you see the average of your week.
Oh, 73. It's not bad.
Wow, that's and how many notifications on average for a week?
60.
What?
I mean, I deleted all my apps, but 2.
Okay.
I think I win. I just finally found these numbers. So my daily average of pickups is just 29, and
mine as well, 29 exactly.
What? You guys live.
What do I have to do? Like bury my phone on like somewhere in the ground?
I deleted all my social media from my phone. So.
Same here.
I did that a couple of months ago, but it's totally crept back in now with this book club. I've got Twitter on my phone, and I find myself checking that these days.
I've not.
Wow, that's impressive, man. I probably have more pickups in just an hour than you in the entire day.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, respect. That's really cool. Yeah.
Oh my word.
I just don't have any friends.
Ah. You're at least with 10 other friends here.
Yeah, you have asked.
Oh, thank you. You're not getting my phone number though.
Oh.
We just spam you all day.
More pickups, more pickups.
Oh, you just need a kid in your life.
Exactly.
You know? When my daughter starts spamming me, one letter at a time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, that was eye-opening. Now, Stefan, you've changed my life. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I mean, now that you know where to find the numbers, you know, now you can measure it and you can optimize it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm shocked.
I'm telling myself that every week, so don't worry.
Maybe that'll be a new part to go in my template. How many phone activations I had that day.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Okay, who's reading?
I was reading. Shall I continue? Okay. While some career-oriented academics try to squeeze as many publications out of one idea as possible, Luhmann seemed to do the opposite. He constantly generated more ideas than he was able to write down. His texts read as if he is trying to squeeze as much insight and as many ideas as possible into one publication. Okay, indeed, I can support the first part of the sentence. Most academics I know work according to the style to write as many papers out of as little as possible. So when he was asked if he missed anything in his life, he famously answered, "If I want something, it's more time. The only thing that really is a nuisance is the lack of time." And while some academics let their assistants do the main work or have a team that is writing the papers to which they add their names, Luhmann rarely had any assistants at all. Sorry. The last assistant who worked for him swore blind that the only help he was able to give was to spot a few typos in his manuscripts here and there. Luhmann's only real help was a housekeeper who cooked for him and his children during the week, not that extraordinary considering he had to raise 3 children on his own after his wife died early. 5 warm meals a week, of course, do not explain the production of roughly 60 influential books and countless articles. Okay.
I don't know. That's 5 meals takes a lot of time. Just saying.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And also then you have to talk to your kids and have to spend some time with them. Okay, he didn't have to spend time with his wife. She was dead.
Yeah, but I think if you take these you know, really routine tasks away, like housekeeping, cooking, it does help. It definitely does help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I think I should read up the Wikipedia article as well. It sounds a little bit really incredibly like, yeah, miraculous. That was the word I
the
was
Hollywood
looking
version.
but maybe, I mean, we don't know. It's just that okay. How long?
As an
Yeah.
academic, are you allowed to look up into Wikipedia?
I don't care. I never asked that question. I mean, I know some academics who actually write for for Wikipedia. So
just to do the typing for all these books.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it might be, I don't know, it might be that he did it in handwritten and then he gave it to secretaries to do the typing. I think that this was quite common earlier. But anyway, handwriting isn't that fast. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
Right.
Is anyone else here interested in Stoicism, and in particular done any reading of Ryan Holiday in the US? Yeah. I don't know, the little bits I've seen of him, it just reminds me, like, I think he's actually got a pretty sophisticated note-taking system because he's a prolific reader and he's quite a prolific producer too. I don't know how many books he's got underneath his name right now, but I do feel like I see him like making notes on index cards and then kind of passing them off to an assistant to type up. And I think he's got lots of resources at his disposal right now, but there's something about his index card system that reminded me of what I'm reading here in Zettelkasten. And so I was thinking about him again recently, kind of wondering like, oh, I wonder, does he know about Zettelkasten? Has he read this stuff? Is he kind of built his own little system totally separately, or was he inspired by something like this?
There's a blog, he wrote a blog post about he calls it Commonplace Notebook something. He wrote a blog post about the system actually.
Okay, I'll look it up, thanks.
I don't have it anymore because it was a while ago that I read it, a couple years, but you can probably still find it if you Google for it.
I'm sure. Okay, sorry for the...
Can we do a simple thing? Schedule a discussion of comparisons between Ryan Holiday's system and Zettelkasten, say in 2 weeks from now, or in 3 weeks. Once we have a better grasp of Zettelkasten system, we can ask ourselves to read, to find or Google a description of Ryan Holiday's system and intentionally to compare them on one of our readings. Let's say in 2 weeks or probably 3 weeks, I don't know. But can we put a mark somewhere that they're going?
That's not going on my to-do list.
Can somebody write the name? We have to Google in the chat.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Didn't get the right name.
Actually,
Wonderful. Ryan Holiday. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was just looking up his tweet when he shared the commonplace book, how and why to keep a commonplace book.
Yeah, that was the article I was thinking about.
okay. Yeah. Somehow I've never read that.
Not enough time to read everything, which would be interesting.
Oh, so true.
Oh, yeah.
I just realized that I am not the last one on the readers list. I thought I was the last one, so I think it's time to pass it on.
Sure. I just want to see where we are. Is it his productivity that we need to read?
I think it's at the very top.
Yeah, at the very top.
Okay. Okay. After doing extensive research on Luhmann's workflow, the German sociologist Johannes F.K. Schmidt concluded, I'm sorry, it's very loud at my house, concluded his productivity could only be explained by his unique working technique. That technique has never been a secret. Luhmann was always open about it. He regularly mentioned the slip box as the reason for his productivity. From as early as 1985, his standard answer to the question of how anyone could be so productive was, I, of course, do not think anything by myself, everything by myself. It happens mainly within the slip box. But few gave the slip box and the way he worked with it a closer look, dismissing his explanation as the modest understatement of a genius. Yeah, should I just carry on?
Yeah.
His productivity is, of course, impressive, but what is even more impressive than the sheer number of publications or the outstanding quality of his writing is the fact that he seemed to achieve all of this with almost no real effort. I don't believe that. He not only stressed that he never forced himself to do anything he didn't feel like, he even said, I only do what is easy. I only write when I immediately know how to do it. If I falter for a moment, I put the matter aside and do something else. In my case, Twitter.
Yep, me too.
So I don't see how that leads to productivity though. Yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think that's a very interesting statement, to not force yourself to do anything. But I just don't know if that works in today's world.
Maybe if combined with GTD and you always have a next task that you can jump to, which is not Twitter.
What do you mean?
I have my personal Twitter story is I have removed 150 people from my following list this week, and it's getting better.
Okay.
By the way, so sorry, we could all connect here on Twitter, by the way. Just drop my name there. Yeah. If we're all Twitter addicts.
I think I follow you anyway.
I am, so.
I've never used it, thank God. It seems like I would get very addicted.
We are fighting for no COVID on Twitter.
This whole talk about the 5 meals.
I think I tweeted 2 things since I started this group, and they were probably the first tweets I've had in maybe since I opened the account. I don't know. Maybe no, I'm sure in the last maybe 2 or 3 years I probably tweeted something. I don't know. I don't use it, but you know, I do like, if you can control who you follow, I think that there is value there. It's just that it's so easy to get distracted and to get down into off on these tangents, and I don't know. And the way my brain works, I forget where I started, and it's 30 minutes later, and it's like, what am I still doing here?
Yeah. My problem is I don't really post anything. I just consume. And that's, I think, even worse.
Yeah, it's this doom scrolling thing. I mean, if you're into Twitter and you want to get the most out of it, I suggest that you start using TweetDeck. It's desktop only. That's the unfortunate bad thing about it. But with TweetDeck, you can be more selective what you want to see on Twitter, because you can create those lists. You can create filtered lists, for instance, and then be very selective what you see. And
okay, I'll have a look at it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you need want to know how to make lists and filters and everything, just DM me on Twitter.
I will.
Now you need an extension for your MA.
I mean, it's really funny. I have almost 9K followers, and I get so many "Hi, can I have a laptop?" DMs or stuff like that from the tech community. It's really interesting. It's really fun.
Although I really can't understand that you are not accepted as a teacher in German, because we need teachers so badly.
Yes.
I'm nearly there. I'm nearly
and
there.
good teachers.
Well, I don't know if I'm a good teacher yet. Well, we'll see. I mean, I love teaching, and I had a good time in South Africa when I taught. Here, it's okay. It's okay. The only problem that I have is my German is not perfect, because I learned it only when I was 30 years old. And although I speak German well, I don't speak it grammatically perfect. And so I always feel a bit very conscious of that. So that's something that I have to get over.
Yeah, I can understand this. But I think this is also, nowadays, a lot of people are teachers that don't have German as a native language.
Yes.
Like a friend of ours who's from Poland, and he's teaching in a German school.
Okay. Well, I'll keep you posted about my journey.
Okay.
Yeah, should we carry on, or I don't know.
Sure.
Or let's start at the top again. Stephen, if you want to.
Sorry, I was checking Twitter.
Of course.
Okay, here we go. Let's see, we're at the top.
Awesome.
His productivity is, of course, no, we did that one, didn't we? Yes.
Yep.
Until recently, almost no one really seemed to believe it. We are still so used to the idea that the great outcome requires great effort, and that we tend not to believe that a simple change in our work routines could not only make us more productive, but the work also more fun. But doesn't it make much more sense that the impressive body of work was produced not in spite of the fact that, was produced not in spite of the fact he never made himself do anything he didn't feel like, but because of it? Even hard work can be fun as long as it is aligned with our intrinsic goals and we feel in control. The problems arise when we set up our work in such an inflexible way that we can't adjust it when things change, and become arrested in a process that seems to develop a life of its own. It's paragraphs like this that really kind of excite me. This idea of flow, effortless, only following what's fun and interesting to you. It seems too good to be true, but this is kind of what I'm chasing here. And I don't know if I'll ever reach lumen levels, but like maybe Michael said, if I get like 1%, that might make it all worth it.
But if I don't know how you are working, but if I am into something, if I burn for something, I get into the flow, and I don't need any system. I can just crank out whatever in no time and surprise the world. Isn't that the way for everybody?
I think I've just been crushed by bureaucracy for like a decade now, where I've really had very few, I will say, fleeting moments of that kind of joy and flow, but I've seen more. I honestly say that I can say that I've seen a lot more recently, sometimes with my writing, and definitely as I'm kind of chasing whatever is interesting to me as I work with in Rome. And, for example, read about Stoicism, or I don't know, languages or fitness or whatever those kind of things are that I can kind of easily and excitedly transition into. Sorry, I ramble a bit.
I know that, for example, for Michael, it's quite easy to get into a flow. It's usually it's like, I will do this at this and this time, and then suddenly there is a scream out of my mouth. But Michael, didn't you say you would do this and this at this time? And then he said, oh my God, I thought this would just take 5 minutes. And now so many time is gone. And he just don't notice it. And for me, it's not like this. Although I have to say, with the fleeting notes, I really got into the flow. But before the fleeting notes, no, it wasn't like this.
So maybe a question to the RBC3 gang that have seen the light and whatnot.
Yes.
Is the promised land really as green as it's promised, or are we chasing a pipe dream?
It is if you call them evergreen notes.
Yeah, true.
Is that an inside joke? I don't get it.
Well, evergreen because they're green.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
evergreen.
sorry.
Some people call the permanent notes evergreen notes. So when you
Which
call
I think
them
is wrong. I
notes,
call them that, but I think that's not correct. Anyway.
So I think there is still work to do. But that's okay. I mean, you cannot take life out of life.
But I can totally relate to that. What you said, that Michael has this state, when you're so into what you're doing, you have no feeling for anything. No. I mean, I can start like 8 in the morning, and when I'm in this flow state, it's just 4 p.m. and I have no clue where the time went, right?
But don't you think, I'm not sure. In my mind, this is also a gender thing, because as a girl, from an early age, you are trained to develop your antennas to watch out for others. How is this and this person feeling, and what is he or she doing, and can I jump into this or into that? You just don't, there is just no room for you to go into the flow. You're not supposed to do it as a girl. You just are not supposed to do it. You have to keep your mind open for what is going on out there, and to see where you can jump in and where you can help and where you can offer assistance. So I think it might be easier, not all men, and not hashtag not all men, might be easier for some men.
Stefan, I'm going to call you out for your 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. flow when you have 150 pickups a day.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, even though they interrupt me, I get pretty fast back into this flow mode, because when as Jens said, when I burn for it, it's pretty easy for me to get back in that flow mode, right? So last weekend, for instance, I just wanted to try something, and 9 hours later, I realized, okay, I need to stop and do something else, because yeah. So when I burn for something, it's this energy that even though I get a ping or I need to go to the toilet or whatever, I am instantly back in that flow mode. Yeah.
Yeah, but as a woman, you have to bring the food to the table. You have to see that the kids go to school. The kids come into your room, Mom, I want to talk about this and this, and then they go out again, and 5 minutes later they're in again, and now I want to talk about this and this, and you know that they need your ear and your attention, and yeah.
Yeah, I think there's very much to it. When I grew up as a child and as a youth, early adult, as long as I lived at home, my mom did everything in the housekeeping, whatever. My brother and I weren't requested to do anything. And so I from my early childhood on, what I did most time when I didn't have to do schoolwork or so was spending time in some kind of flow, building Lego or reading or whatever. And I could continue with that state of mind later on in my life, because I was never put into a situation for tens of years where I was requested or where it was expected that I divert some of my attention outwards, which is of course quite reckless. I mean, I can get so absorbed. Yeah, but I can get so absorbed that people shouting at me, I will not hear them. So this is quite reckless then. I mean, if so all these things have two sides.
Can you vouch for that, Birgit? Have you ever shouted at him and been ignored?
In the last, I mean, not ignored. Yes, I've also been ignored by him, and I have shouted at him, yes.
Yeah,
and he's doing the cooking now. He's doing the cooking now every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've never considered it a gender thing, but I think you actually are onto something there.
Yeah. So my mother had only two sons, and it was the most important thing to her that her sons have to grow up that
her poor son. She's always speaking about them as her poor son.
if I tell my mom on the phone that I do something for the housekeeping or something like cooking or so, she's always saying a little bit exaggerated, this is not why I have born you. You're supposed to do serious work, and someone else, we don't mention names, has to take care for you. And okay, it's
by the way,
exaggerated.
Is this a German thing? Because in Austria it's also the same. Like, I mean, is this a German culture thing, or what about other?
I think so. My husband's German, and it's a very similar story.
Okay, yeah, same here in Austria. That's why I asked.
My brother was never expected to do this. He could do whatever he wanted to do, like Lumen. I remember my anger when I read the sentence. He did whatever he wanted to do, and I thought, well, yes, good for you. You are a man. You can do this. I'm a woman. I can't do this. My brother was never expected to do anything in the household. Yes, do the dishes once, and then they turned out dirty. So the comment was, okay, Birgit will do it next weekend. Yeah. And that's how boys
the weekend
are
after next week.
I think the key is like not do anything and then someone will do it. That's like my approach so far.
Okay.
Like I'm in Italy, I live by myself. My for example, my fridge is always empty because I don't like go grocery shopping. I have like 3 people who do my groceries now because they realize that otherwise I just like don't eat or like eat so poorly. It's like if you don't do anything, someone's gonna like do it. So that's my approach.
Good approach.
Not always possible, but
my brother's approach also was to go to the bathroom when serious work was required.
Oh,
there were not
time for a bath. Yeah, cool.
I see you bookmarked the page. Are we planning to wind it down next? I think I'm going to pop out if we're getting close to the end. Though,
that's 2 hours. So
yeah. Well, great. Thanks, guys. That was fun.
Yeah. Thanks.
It was.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes,
guys.
wonderful.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.